My family planned a holiday without me for the third time. But they forgot I wasn't just a relative anymore. I was a legal co-owner of the home they were secretly selling. My name is Elise. I'm 32. Last Christmas, my younger sister inadvertently added me to a family group chat. I watched 47 messages flood in over the course of an hour, a tidal wave of holiday logistics and cheer. And I wasn't in any of it. My mother typed the words clearly, "Make sure she stays in the dark." My brother replied instantly, "Just give her the wrong date. Worked last year." My father sent a laughing emoji. I was in a rented room, miles from home, reading every single word. I took screenshots of everything, every message, every emoji, every casual dismissal. On Christmas morning, I typed one single sentence into that chat. It wasn't an accusation, an explosion, or a desperate plea. It was a simple holiday greeting. But the second sentence was the one that changed everything. I sent, "Merry Christmas. Your realtor will explain everything." The chat went silent. Then the calls began, 89 of them in the following hour. It took them 60 minutes to realize what I'd known for 3 weeks. They had forgotten to check one crucial detail. A document filed at the county courthouse 8 years prior, notarized and signed by the one woman who saw me clearly. 47 messages showed me where I stood with them. One message showed them where the ground really was. They were planning a sale around my absence, not a holiday. It was a Tuesday in early December, and I was in a standard chain hotel, working on a large infrastructure project. 3 weeks in, 2 to go, surviving on takeout and late-night emails. My phone buzzed on the nightstand around 9. Then again. Then repeatedly. I picked it up and saw I'd been added to a group I'd never been invited to, a thread titled with a festive theme and a word for family. 47 messages lay beneath it. My sister Chloe immediately sent a private message. "Oops, sorry, wrong chat. Ignore it lol." Too late. I was already scrolling. The initial messages were mundane, date confirmations, logistical questions, normal enough. Then the tone shifted. Message 9. My mother wrote, "We should use the good china. Elise won't be here to complain about washing it." Message 10. My brother replied with a laughing face. Then the real planning began. My name appeared exactly 0 times in the discussion of the dinner and 4 times in the discussion of how to prevent me from attending. My brother, "Just tell her the wrong date like last year." My mother, the 28th. "Tell her we're doing a small thing on the 28th. My father, a laughing face. My sister, "What if she finds out?" My mother, "She won't. She never does." I put the phone down on the synthetic bedspread, picked it up, set it down again. 47 messages, not one inviting me. 4 of them explicitly dedicated to ensuring I remained excluded. My phone buzzed again. My sister again, privately, seriously, "Just ignore it. It's nothing." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the thread and began my systematic screenshotting from the top. Let me tell you about who I am, because it's essential for what comes next. I'm a structural engineer. I design support systems for bridges and large buildings. I've been licensed for nearly a decade, and I spend much of my time on the road working late in anonymous hotels. I'm good at my job because I am meticulous, patient with details, and I never skip a step. These are the qualities my family has never valued. Growing up in a small town, I was the middle child, the one who turned in projects on time while my brother played sports and my sister did extracurricular activities. My parents drove them to practice and games. I rode my bicycle to the public library. That was fine. I told myself that busy people get overlooked, and I repeated that narrative for years. I always sent the holiday gifts. I handled restaurant bookings for my mother's birthday. When my father had a medical procedure, I drove 6 hours on a weekday to move his truck. I never asked for acknowledgement. I convinced myself that being useful was synonymous with being included. And yet, last December, I arrived at the house on the 28th, the date they'd given me, holding a warm casserole dish. The door was locked, the lights were off, no one was home. I called my mother. She answered on the 5th ring, her voice artificially cheerful. "Oh, honey, I thought we told you. We did it on the 25th this year. It was a last-minute thing." I stood on the porch with the cooling dish in my hands and said, "That's okay. My fault. It wasn't my fault. I just didn't know the truth yet." Back in the hotel room, I continued reading. I reached message 31 and my stomach tightened. My brother had typed, "Closing's the 26th. Just keep her out of the way until then." Closing, I read it again. Closing on what? 2 messages later, my mother the buyer wants a walk through Christmas afternoon, so we need the place empty by noon. A buyer. A walkthrough. They were selling something and they needed me gone to do it. I turned the phone face down and stared at the wall. The only coherent thought I could form was about my grandmother's house, Vera's house, the white clapboard structure on Maple Street. 2 stories. A generous porch that wrapped around the side, a little decorative mailbox. I lived there the summer after my freshman year of college when I couldn't afford a dorm. Vera let me stay in the upstairs bedroom with the sloped ceiling and the window looking out over the backyard. She made me coffee every morning at 6 and told me to focus on my studies and not to worry. That house was the only place I never had to justify my existence. I have a key. It's a brass one, heavier than the others, cut in a pattern they don't make anymore. Vera gave it to me on her 75th birthday, in front of the entire family. She pressed it into my palm and said, "This is your home whenever you need one, Elise." My mother rolled her eyes. My brother was on his phone. My father nodded and looked away. None of them thought it meant anything. The phone buzzed again. I picked it up. Message 36 was the one that did it. My mother, in capital letters, make sure she doesn't find out. Not whispered, not implied. Typed in black and white and sent to 4 people who all acknowledged it. 2 messages later, my father sent a yellow face, laughing so hard it was crying. He didn't even type a word, he just laughed. I screenshotted that one twice because my hands were shaking and the first capture was blurred. I want to be very clear. I didn't screenshot those messages to use them as ammunition. I did it because I was alone and my chest was constricting. And I needed proof that I wasn't inventing this. I had spent years smoothing things over, telling myself the missed invitations were errors and the wrong dates were honest mistakes. The silence after my voicemails was just everyone being busy. 47 messages killed every excuse I'd ever built. They weren't forgetting me. They were coordinating around me. There was a calendar, a buyer, a closing date, and a plan to keep me blind. The only place that ever felt like mine. And they built that plan on the assumption that I would never push back. I never had. My role was to be the reliable, absent one who did what she was told and disappeared without a fuss. I sat in that hotel room until midnight, reading the thread forward and backward. The word again kept circling back, like last year, which meant last year wasn't an accident either. The potatoes, the locked door, the light voice on the phone, it was the same play, run twice. My thumb hovered over my mother's name for a long time. I imagined the conversation. I'd say I saw the chat. She'd go quiet. Then she'd cry. Then she'd tell me I was being dramatic. Then I'd apologize for making her feel bad. I'd done that math before. I knew the answer. So, I pulled my thumb back and put the phone down. I sat on the edge of the bed with both hands flat on my knees. It's how I sit when I'm analyzing a structural report that doesn't add up. I asked myself one question. What exactly are they selling? My brother had written closings the 26th. That's real estate language. My mother mentioned a buyer and a walkthrough. If they were selling Vera's house, that was a problem. But it was also a question. Vera had died 3 years ago. The house should have gone through probate. And I didn't know the answer because nobody had ever told me. I'd never signed anything. So before I said a single word to anyone, I needed to know the facts, not the feelings. The paper. I turned on the lamp, opened my laptop, and navigated to the county recorder's website. While the small-town government portal loaded, I pulled my key ring from my bag and held it under the light. 4 keys, my apartment, my car, my office fob, and the brass one. Vera's key. It was thicker than the rest, slightly tarnished, with a square bow that dug into my palm. I'd carried it for 8 years. The night she gave it to me, she'd pulled me aside after dinner. The whole family was in the living room. She walked me to the front door, took the key off a hook, and pressed it into my hand. "This is your home whenever you need one, Elise." She said it loud enough that my mother looked up. My father glanced over. My brother was distracted. My sister was drawing on a napkin. My mother gave a tight smile. "Mom, she's not homeless," she said. Vera didn't look at her. She looked at me. "Keep it." The county page finally loaded. I typed in the address. The search wheel spun. I placed the key on the desk next to the laptop and waited. The site was basic. White page, blue links. I got a list of documents. The original purchase deed from decades ago, a refinance, a mortgage satisfaction, and then one more entry. A quitclaim deed recorded 8 years ago. I clicked it. The scan took 30 seconds to load. Grainy, at the top, quitclaim deed. Grantor, Vera Ann Miller. Grantees, plural, my mother, Diane Patricia Grant, and then Elise Elizabeth Grant. Tenants in common. I read it again. I wasn't looking at a sentimental gesture. I was looking at a legal document that said I owned half of that house, not symbolically. On paper, filed with the county, searchable by anyone with a browser. Vera hadn't just given me a key. She'd given me the deed. She'd done it publicly, through the proper channel with a notary stamp. She knew that a key could be taken back, but a recorded document couldn't be wished away. She hadn't been theatrical. She'd been tactical. I pulled up the rest of the filings. No subsequent transfer. No deed from me to anyone else. My name was still on that house. The county didn't care that I hadn't visited. The county only knew what was filed. And what was filed said I was an owner. I remembered the day she signed it. I was 25. She'd called and asked me to come home for the weekend. She'd had a minor stroke a few months prior. A warning, the doctors called it. She was sharp again by the time I arrived, standing in the kitchen making tea. But she had an appointment the next morning, and she wanted me to go with her. I assumed it was medical. It wasn't. We drove to a small office on Main Street. A notary public who also did taxes. Vera had the papers drawn up. She sat across from the notary and calmly stated she wanted to add me to the title. Tenants in common. She said it like she'd practiced it. So the house doesn't get tangled up, and so Elise has a place that's hers. She signed. I signed. The notary stamped it. We dropped the original at the recorder's office on the way home. The whole thing took 40 minutes. When we got back, my mother was in the kitchen. Vera told her. She didn't hide it. My mother's face went cold. "You're putting Elise on the deed, not me?" Vera poured tea. "You're already on it. Now Elise is too." My mother set her jaw. "She doesn't even live here." Vera didn't argue. She just said, "The paper's filed. It's done." I felt awkward, like I'd been given a gift I hadn't earned in front of someone who thought I didn't deserve it. I didn't understand then what she'd actually given me. I do now. Back in the hotel, 2 a.m, I had the deed in one tab and the screenshots in another. I toggled between them like I was cross-referencing a report against field conditions. The deed said I was a co-owner. The chat said they were selling. The math was simple. You can't legally sell a house when someone else's name is on the title without their signature. That's property law. If my name was on the deed, and it was, then no title company would clear the closing. The sale wouldn't die instantly, but it would stall. And stalling a closing a week before Christmas is close enough to killing it. I closed the laptop and lay on the bed. The air conditioner hummed. My phone was dark. Finally quiet. I thought about calling Vera. That was the reflex. 3 years dead, and I still reached for her number. She would have known what to do. She planned 8 years ahead and filed the paper that proved it. She trusted me to figure it out when the time came. I turned on my side and looked at the brass key on the desk. The county recorder confirmed what Vera set up. My family confirmed what they were trying to do. The only question left was what I would do with both pieces of information. I didn't have an answer yet, but I had something better. I had time. The closing was December 26th. It was December 3rd. 23 days. Being forgotten by your family is one thing. Being managed is another. The next morning, my mother called. I let it ring 3 times before I answered, needing those seconds to flatten my voice. "Hi, sweetheart." She cooed. She always sounds warm when she wants something. "So, Christmas, we're keeping it small, just the 4 of us. But if you're free on the 28th, you could come for leftovers." The 28th. Delivered on schedule, exactly as the chat prescribed. She was reading from her own script. "That sounds fine, Mom," I said. "Perfect. Don't bring anything fancy. Just yourself," she laughed. I didn't. I hung up and sat very still. The worst part wasn't the lie. It was how easy it was for her. The warmth, the little laugh, all of it practiced. She didn't even hesitate. Just the number, smooth like a receptionist confirming an appointment. No stumble, no flicker of guilt, just the 28th. 2 days later, my sister called. She didn't mean to tell me anything. She just talks too much when she's nervous. She started with small talk about her job and a new guy. Then she mentioned my brother, and her voice shifted. He's been really stressed. The shop's not doing great. My brother ran an auto body shop. He'd opened it with a loan co-signed by my mother. I knew about it because she'd mentioned it once. "How bad?" I asked. "Bad like the bank sent letters bad. Mom's on the hook too. So if he defaults, she trailed off." I didn't push. The picture was assembling itself. His business was failing. The co-signed loan meant my mother's finances were exposed. Selling Vera's house was the fastest way to cover the gap. The house was paid off, no mortgage. The sale would be enough to clear the loan. This wasn't about hating me. It was financial triage. And I was the complication they'd decided to route around rather than include. They didn't cut me out because they were angry. They cut me out because including me meant admitting they needed something from me. That was the part they couldn't stomach. All they needed was one signature they assumed I'd hand over without reading. Or better yet, one they could avoid needing by keeping me out of the room. December 10th. I'd been back at the project site for a week, driving work schedules during the day and reading property law at night. I downloaded the full deed and saved it in a folder labeled Maple Street. I printed both pages on the hotel printer and put them in a file. I held it for a long time. It weighed almost nothing. Tenants in common. I'd researched it carefully. It meant my mother and I each owned a specific share of the property. Neither of us could sell the whole property without the other's consent. She couldn't sign for me. If she tried to close, the title company would flag it. This meant one of two things. Either they hadn't told the title company about me, or they had, and the plan was to get my signature quietly, framed as something else. I put the folder in my bag next to the brass key. 2 pieces of Vera sitting side by side. I went back to the screenshots. Message 31, closings the 26th. Just keep her clear. Message 33, the buyer wants a walk through Christmas afternoon. I searched for the realtor. Janet Reed, realtor, Millfield. I found her in 4 seconds. She had the listing for the house on her page. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, wraparound porch. Asking $265. Listed 3 weeks ago. I stared at the listing photos. Someone had staged the living room. Vera's armchair was gone, replaced by a sofa I didn't recognize. The kitchen had been repainted. The porch had been sanded. The upstairs room was arranged with generic catalog furniture. They'd erased Vera from the house before they'd even sold it. The closing was December 26th, the day after the Christmas gathering I was being steered away from. They weren't excluding me because I was inconvenient. They were excluding me because keeping me away was a logistical requirement for the sale. If I showed up on Christmas, I might see the staging, ask why the furniture was different. The wrong date wasn't cruelty for its own sake. It was project management. I was a variable they needed to control. I closed the listing tab and typed 1 line into a document. Do not react. Do not confront. Let the system work. December 12th. I called a real estate attorney, not a family friend, not anyone from Millfield. I told him the situation in about 4 minutes. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "That closing is almost certainly not happening without you." I asked him to be specific. He explained no title company would issue a clear policy if a recorded co-owner hadn't signed. The buyer's lender would require clear title. Even if it was a cash sale, no competent closing agent would proceed. Your signature isn't optional. It's structural. I almost laughed at the word structural. I asked him what would happen if they tried to close anyway. He said the title search would flag my name. The closing would stall. The buyer would likely walk. If they wanted to force a sale without my agreement, they'd have to file a partition action, a lawsuit in open court, a public record, months of process. Families don't want that. I thanked him and hung up. I wrote down 1 sentence on the hotel notepad. Your signature isn't optional. It's structural. I could have called my mother that night. I had the screenshots, the deed, the attorneys, confirmation. I could have laid it all out. But I'd been through enough conversations with Diane Grant to know how they end. She cries. She reframes. She tells me I'm hurting her. And somewhere around minute 12, I find myself apologizing for noticing what she did. Not this time. I didn't want a confrontation. I wanted a process, the kind of outcome that doesn't depend on guilt. Because guilt requires a conscience. I'd spent my career building things that hold up under pressure. Bridges, retaining walls, structures that stand because the math is right. I believe in systems, and the system already had my answer. The deed was filed. The title search would find it. The closing would stall. I didn't need to raise my voice. The county recorder had already spoken for me 8 years ago. So, I decided I wouldn't sign. I wouldn't confront. I wouldn't explain or argue. I would contact the realtor directly, identify myself as a co-owner, and let the title company do what it does, verify ownership, flag the discrepancy, and halt the closing. I wasn't going to shout. I was going to file. And on Christmas morning, after they'd toasted their success and congratulated themselves, I would send 1 message and let the system handle the rest. I composed an email to Janet Reed. I kept it professional, the same tone I use for a field report. Dear Miss Reed, my name is Elise Grant. I am writing regarding the property at 4112 Maple Street. I am a recorded co-owner per a quitclaim deed filed 8 years ago. I have not been contacted regarding the pending sale. I would appreciate confirmation of the transaction status. I attached the deed scan and sent it. Janet Reed called me 4 hours later. Her voice was professional but tight. Miss Grant, thank you for reaching out. I've reviewed the deed. I need to verify a few things with the title company. She called back the next morning. The title search confirmed my name. The closing, she said carefully, could not proceed as currently structured without my participation. She asked if I'd been in contact with the other owner. No, I said. I learned about it through other channels. A pause. I'll need to inform the seller and the buyer's agent. That's fine, I said. I'd prefer all communication go through proper channels. The fuse was lit. I didn't need to touch it again. A key can be taken back. A deed cannot. Christmas morning arrived early. A PDF landed in my email from my mother. No subject line, just an attachment labeled estate_cleanup.pdf and a message, Audrey, can you sign these before the 24th? Just routine estate paperwork. Thanks, Mom. I opened it. The first page was a deed of sale, transferring all interest in the house to a buyer. My signature line was on page 4, flagged with a yellow tab and the word sign in my sister's handwriting. The purchase price was listed. The proceeds were scheduled to go to a single bank account, my mother's. Not split, not shared. 100% of the sale price minus costs routed to Diane Patricia Grant. My name was on the signature line, but nowhere in the payment section. They didn't just want me to sign away my ownership. They wanted me to do it for free. They'd bet I wouldn't read it. Just initial where the tabs are, sweetheart. That's what she'd say. I saved the file. I forwarded it to my attorney. I did not sign. I didn't reply to the email either. I left it sitting, read but unanswered. The way they'd left me standing on a porch with a baking dish. That night, I held the brass key in my closed fist and sat on the bed in the dark. I thought about Vera, not the legal version, but the real one. The woman who made tea without measuring, who kept crosswords by the back door, who noticed when I was quiet. She signed that deed because she saw this coming. Not the specific details, but the shape of it. She saw that I would be the one they spent around, and she put my name on the one thing they couldn't spend without me. That wasn't sentimentality. That was engineering. The key was warm. I opened my palm. It wasn't a keepsake anymore. It was proof that someone had looked at me and said, "She belongs here." I still hadn't replied to the email. I still hadn't signed anything. And in 6 days, Janet Reed was going to walk into a closing meeting and tell my family that the sale couldn't proceed. I typed my one message into the chat draft and saved it. Merry Christmas. Your realtor will explain the rest. I'd finished the project 2 days early. I drove home instead of to Millfield. I unpacked. I watered my plants. I set the manila folder and the brass key on my desk side by side. I opened the group chat one more time. The conversation had continued. More logistics. My sister asked if she should bring pie. My brother confirmed the walk-through time. My mother reminded everyone to keep things normal if I texted. My father didn't type anything new. His laughing emoji was still sitting there. I looked at my saved draft. I'd rewritten it over 3 weeks, and every version kept shrinking. One short line. No accusation, no emotion, no exclamation marks. I wasn't going to give them a thread to pull or a tone to criticize. I was going to point them toward the one person who had the authority to tell the truth. The realtor whose title search had already flagged my name. Christmas Eve. The group chat lit up one last time. My brother posted a photo of the house, freshly staged, porch lights on, a wreath on the door. My sister replied with heart emojis. My mother typed, "Tomorrow's going to be perfect. Don't forget, nobody mentions Elise. She thinks it's the 28th. My father sent a Santa emoji. I read it from my apartment, a mug of tea growing cold in my hands. Nobody mentions Elise. 3 words that summarized a decade of holiday math. It wasn't casual. It was policy. I turned the phone face down. I thought about what tomorrow would look like from their side. My brother relieved, talking through the schedule. My mother orchestrating the table, satisfied that everything was on track. My father quiet in his chair. My sister setting out plates for 4. They'd raise a glass. They'd feel good. And at some point in the morning, my message would land in the chat like a stone in still water. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like I'd been given a bridge inspection report and the numbers were exactly what the plan said they'd be. Clear, verified, done. I woke at 7, made coffee, and sat at my desk. The group chat was already buzzing. Merry Christmas. From my sister. Morning fam. From my brother. A sticker from my father. My mother sent a photo of the dining table set for 4. White plates, red napkins, candles, 4 chairs, 4 place settings. I counted them. At 9:48 a.m., I tapped send. Merry Christmas. Your realtor will explain the rest. 1 line. No emoji. Just a period. I set the phone on the desk and watched. The typing indicator appeared under my sister's name, then vanished. It appeared under my mother's, then vanished. It appeared under my brother's for a full 10 seconds, then vanished. Nobody sent a word. The chat that had been buzzing with cheer 4 minutes ago went absolutely silent. The kind of silence that doesn't mean nobody has anything to say, but means everybody has too much. I picked up my coffee. 30 seconds. A minute. 2 minutes. The typing bubble appeared and disappeared 6 more times. Nobody could figure out what to say because my message didn't give them anything to argue with. I didn't accuse. I didn't cry. I just aimed them at the one person who had the paperwork. Then it started ringing. My brother called first. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail, my sister tried next, 3 times in 90 seconds. Then my mother. Her name flashed over and over. The phone vibrating so hard it slid across the desk. I didn't pick up. My father texted, the first actual text he'd sent me in months. Call your mother. I read it and set the phone down. The calls kept coming. I opened a notes app and started a tally. I'm an engineer. I track data. My brother, 14 calls in the first 20 minutes. My sister, 9. My mother, 22. My father, 3 calls. 2 more texts. Both just call home. My sister sent a private message, Elise. What does that mean? What realtor? Please call me back. I didn't reply. My mother left a voicemail. I played it once. Her voice was high, cracked, fast. Elise, I don't know what you think you know, but you need to call me right now. This is a family matter, and you are blowing it out of proportion. I played it a second time, not because I needed to hear it, but to make sure the transcript saved correctly. It did. My brother left one too. Shorter, angrier, you had no right to go behind our backs. By 10:48, exactly 1 hour after I'd sent the message, the tally was 89 calls. I wrote the number on the notepad, circled it. For 3 years, they couldn't be bothered to call me on Christmas. Now, they couldn't stop. Here's what I learned later. Janet Reed had left a voicemail for my mother on December 23rd. A professional courtesy. The title search had flagged a co-owner who had not been consulted. She recommended pausing the closing. My mother didn't tell anyone. She assumed she could handle it after Christmas. She'd call Janet on the 26th, smooth it over. She didn't call me. Then my message landed, and Janet's voicemail stopped being a problem she could postpone and became a crisis she couldn't contain. My brother called Janet at 10:15 on Christmas morning. Janet, to her credit, was measured. She told him what she'd told my mother. The title showed 2 owners. Only one had authorized the sale. The closing could not proceed. My brother asked what legal resolution meant. Janet explained the partition action. A lawsuit. Public record. It could take months. The buyer had been informed and was considering withdrawing. My brother hung up. According to my sister, he walked back into the dining room, set his phone on the table between the plates, and said, "She's on the deed. The whole thing's dead." My mother sat down. Her hand went to her mouth. My father stared at his plate. The room went silent. Finally, my brother said, "We need a lawyer." My mother's chin trembled. "She's ruining everything." She said it twice. Nobody corrected her. At 11:20, I picked up the phone and called back. One call. I chose my mother's number. She answered on half a ring. "Elise, what have you done?" Her voice was wet, cracking, the cry that comes out when the script fails. I could hear the room behind her. I had her on speaker. Good, I wanted all of them to hear this. "I haven't done anything, Mom. Janet Reed did a title search. She found my name on the deed, which has been recorded for 8 years. She paused the closing, which is what title companies do. That's all." My voice was level. I'd rehearsed it for the building inspectors. "You are ruining this family," she said. My brother in the background, "This is insane. She hasn't lived there in years." I let the noise pass. Then I said, "You told me the wrong date again. You sent me a deed of sale disguised as estate paperwork and expected me to sign it without reading. I read it." Silence. Then, my mother, softer now, the pivot to guilt. "We were going to tell you. We were going to split the money. You would have gotten your share." "When?" I asked. "Before or after closing?" She didn't answer. "You told me the wrong date like last year." I let the sentence sit. The deed has the right one. My father's voice, barely above a murmur, "We shouldn't have done it that way." Nobody responded to him. He didn't say anything else. That was his one honest moment. 7 words. Too late. I told them my attorney's contact information and said any further discussion should go through him. I wished them a Merry Christmas. Then I hung up. The closing on December 26th did not happen. The buyer withdrew his offer 2 days later. The listing was pulled. My brother's loan went into default in January. The bank sent notices to both him and my mother. Without the sale proceeds, there was no way to clear the debt. I learned this from my sister, who called me in February. "Everything's falling apart," she said. I told her I was sorry things were hard. I meant it. The mediation happened in March. My mother, brother, father, and I sat in a conference room. My sister didn't come. My mother cried twice during the first hour. The first time was strategic. The second time was real. I think when the mediator laid out the numbers, she realized the house she'd grown up in was now a problem she couldn't solve without the daughter she'd excluded. My brother said almost nothing. My father sat with his hands folded. I presented 2 options. We could sell the property together, with proceeds split according to our recorded ownership, or I could buy out my mother's share at fair market value. I didn't offer a third option. My brother finally spoke. "Vera would have wanted us to keep it in the family." I looked at him for a long moment. Vera did keep it in the family. She put my name on it. "The question is whether you consider me family." We agreed to the sale. The house went back on the market in April and sold in May. My share, after costs, was a significant sum. I deposited it into a savings account. Before the new buyers moved in, I drove to Millfield one last time. I parked on Maple, walked up the porch steps, and put the brass key into the lock. It still fit. I stood in the empty living room. I didn't cry. I just looked around, said thank you to nobody and everybody, and pulled the door shut behind me. I took the key off my ring and left it on the railing. They wrote me off the guest list. She wrote me onto the deed. It wasn't about the money. It was never about the money. They spent 3 Christmases coordinating dates I'd never be invited to and doors I'd never walk through. Not one of them stopped to remember that the woman they kept writing off the guest list had been written onto the deed years before by the one person in that family who actually saw her. If this story felt familiar, remember that your name belongs on your own life. The right people see you. And if you're ready to set a boundary today, take this as your sign. Thank you for being here. If this resonated, please hit like and subscribe to Mind Unveiled for more stories of quiet strength and unexpected justice. I'll see you in the next one.